any women leaders in the provincial
Yes,
assembly?
yes, we have. We
How
have
many?
allowed
Elected, appointed?
one appointed member
So
representing.
no elected women
No elected.
representatives?
We appointed because our own capacity as a leader in our own rights in the community, and it should be there at that level, and it's properly executed there at that level.
Should we provide more spaces for women at the provincial assembly?
At legislative level.
Yes.
So that at least we introduce them at the provincial assembly, and if they do move up naturally afterwards, would that be an option?
Yes, that can be an option. There are people in the community that think that they should be put on a same playing field also with men also, and that's the kind of argument we are also having.
So rather than luk lo antap, you mean luk lo tamblo pastem? Provincial.
Yeah, you
provincial
mean lusimlo. Abna bieni go antap is easy. When we give it a big bang, then there are conflicting arguments because of diverse culture in Papua New Guinea, and also against the foreign one that is coming into Papua New Guinea. I think that's.
Mr. Mano, just a stone throw away from here is Bougainville. Why are we talking too much? They've done it by law. They've created 4 seats for women in Bougainville. You tell this committee, why can't we do that? What's stopping us? A region in our country has done it by law. You may talk too much. Women are waiting, they can't win elections. This province that I expect that there should be women politicians on the floor of Parliament from East New Britain and also Bougainville, they're not there. So we have to legislate and create women positions so that they compete. We need to look at options. We cannot accept the status quo. Bougainville has done it. It's not far away. What's your view?
If we are given, and currently we are talking about legislative power of this provincial government underneath the reform that was done in 1995. Before 1995, we can create legislation, and I think this is the way forward. If that can be seen from another forum, we should be given the power to legislate for it. And we want our women in this provincial government, first of all. We are talking about something else, that's why I'm reserving that. But if we are given the power to do it, we can do it, and we should do it here. For our women folks to be in our own provincial government.
Thank you for that contribution, and you are quite right. Perhaps that's a discussion that we can take up specifically and have a look at it. And I wear another hat as the Deputy Chairman of the Gender Equity and Women's Empowerment Committee, and perhaps we've already made an undertaking to go to Morobe to listen to the women there, and perhaps we might extend and look at coming to other provinces, including East New Britain. Before I excuse the panel, I'd like to ask Ms. Sam, who is the Assistant Election Manager for East New Britain, if there's anything you would like to add, Madam, to the discussion. Please press the green button and bring the microphone down towards you.
Thank you, Chair. I think most of the recommendations and everything has been said by my election manager and the best chairman. I have only one recommendation, and that is to do with the role. If the government can fund the province to come up with a fresh new role, because we've been updating, but we keep on facing the same issues with the role. So if the provincial administration can maintain the ward recorders books and give us the data of how many, the population of the eligible voters, and then Electoral Commission to supply the Form 11s based on the request from the wards. That is one recommendation I wish to put. It's for a fresh new role. But
thank you, ma'am. All right, with that, I'm going to excuse and thank those who gave evidence today, the manager from West New Britain and our team from East New Britain. Thank you all for your contribution to this subject that we are all interested in and are looking for solutions to. I will now suspend for 10 minutes. So those of you who want to stand up and have a coffee or something, and then we'll reconvene. In the meantime, I think we've got New Island to come up, and if we've got some community reps who are here who want to speak to the committee, we will get the front set up. The hearings are now suspended for 10 minutes. We will reconvene at 15:40. Thank you all very much.
Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Sound. Sound check. Sound check. Sound. Sound check. Sound check. Sound. Sound check. Sound check.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, you may run short of time, so sorry, I'm going to be a little bit harsh and ask all of you to take your seats. And if I can ask New Ireland to come forward, and we've got Mr. Emmanuel Melchior, Cullen Services by Kamantar, and the Mayor for Rabao Leben, Mr. Manawai. Could we have our participants up to the front, please? Thank you, sir. Ms. Bice, New Ireland. Mr. Melchior, Cullen Services. Oh, it's okay. All right, well, maybe we make a start if our team is ready, and someone can go and locate Mr. Melchior. Oh, you play mema. All right, good pla. Sorry, me pla soti mo about blow you. Please, if you can grab a seat up the front here. Okay, team, we good? We now start the afternoon session. We've got New Ireland, the election manager for New Ireland, Ms. Bice. We've got Mr. Manawai, who is the mayor for Rabao Leben, and we have Mr. Melchior, who is from Cullen Services, also in East New Britain. We'll start with Ms. Bice, and let me first of all thank you for a very comprehensive report that you've provided for us, and I want to also note for the record that this same report was given to me last year. In fact, I think New Ireland was the first one to provide a written report, so I want to thank you for that. But let me allow you to state your name for the record, and then to just give us a brief rundown on your report. Ms. Bice, press the green button in front of you, and you can manipulate the microphone as appropriate. So press him. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Okay, firstly, thank you to the committee for the opportunity for giving to us the provinces. Okay, briefly, I will go through the elections in New Ireland. Elections in New Ireland was conducted generally well with all the parties involved. New Ireland, we have 2 districts, Namatana and Keiweng. For the election, we had 3 seats contesting. We have 10 LLGs and 142 wards. Okay. For the PESC, we greatly appreciate what they have supported us. It was not really active pre-election. Leading towards the elections, we had frequent meetings led by the former or outgoing, the recent PA, Mr. Pawut. Okay. As usual, all public servants, they always take lead in the elections when we have elections or come election time, and they play the lead role in the elections. However, I see that not all PESCs are the same throughout the country. So, as per one of my concerns or recommendations per my report, if the PSC should be revised, they should be revised individually, or like, because different provinces, they differ. We have new PAs appointed, and then they take on the lead as being the PSC chairman. So if it would be revised, it should be revised individually per province and not to be seen or treated same across the country. I had a tough time with the PSC, but we had good support from them in terms of their assistance with regards to basically supplying of manpower. They gave approval to release all the public servants in the province to concentrate in taking part in the elections and assist us in the province. However, we did not receive any funding assistance from the provincial government or the provincial administration. Going to the roll update activity, New Ireland, we had about 3 to 4 months, going 4 months, doing the roll update activity. The issues that we faced was limited time, the funding, the limited enrollment forms. Like most of my colleagues from all the other provinces, for the roll activity, we faced the same situations. One other thing was the movement of voters within the province, within the LLG and the districts. That we cannot control. They can move freely. But come enrollment time is one of the areas that we have difficulties in enrolling them. The other thing is the ignorance of voters. We have cases where when enrollment agents go out to enroll voters, there are people that are ignorant. But come polling time, they are there to vote. And that happens, it happened in the previous election, and it happened again this election. So I'm seeing the importance of being enrolled, even though it's by law you have to enroll, and voting is non-compulsory. People tend to have it the other way. They ignore to come and enroll, but then they turn up during polling time, and then they can always say that, why my name is not there? So that's one of the other areas we also face. In addition, like for missing names and the other areas that my other colleagues have mentioned already. For New Ireland, we had 2 cases. During enrollment time, we also had other groups claiming to be enrollment agents and also enrolling. Now, we received reports from the enrollment agents in one of the wards claiming or saying that they were confronted by another group also saying they were enrolling, and that caused confusion within the ward or the village level in that particular area. So we raised that with the PESC, and the report was given to the PESC as well. So from then, I'm not sure how they took it on board, and we did not get a feedback from that. But that's what we realized as well.
How is it possible that you have 2 competing enrollment teams? How did that come about? Did you guys investigate it to try and find out?
Like I said, we knew that we had agents from the PNGC, which I knew, that were on ground to do enrollment with the limited supply of our Form 11s. However, they were also confronted with one other group at the same place. So those are some concerns that I would like to raise for the committee to know.
Okay, you can raise it with us, but we still need to understand, how is it possible that you have 2 different groups doing enrollment, and shouldn't that be managed either at your level or the Provincial Election Steering Committee? How did it happen? I mean, we have not heard this from other places, and we are hearing about it in your report from New Ireland.
Okay.
Was an additional team sent in by someone else for some, I guess, fraudulent purpose? Or were both teams from your office and they just decided to go and fight over a small operating space? What was it?
No, for us, we didn't have 2 teams.
You had 1 team?
We had 1 team.
So where did the other team come from?
From that time, I wouldn't really know, because we did receive a report after the enrollment, and we managed to give the report to the committee. And then
did you try to verify or even maybe perhaps arrest those people who were doing these sorts of things?
We gave the report to the committee, so that was where we needed the assistance of the
Committee.
PESC to step in and intervene, because we had limited time to complete our task.
So just out of curiosity, did the other team do any enrollments, and did those enrollments find their way onto the electoral roll or not?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, fair enough.
No.
Proceed.
Okay. That was that was something that we faced. On the other hand, another issue that we faced also was tribal fighting, ethnic clashes within ward area or village, and the villages or voters in that particular area were no longer living in that place because they were scared for their lives, and they had to disperse and live somewhere. So when the agents were there to do enrollment, there were practically almost nobody at the ward, and maybe 2 or 3 houses surrounding that they could. So those were some of the things that we faced, but that was not across New Ireland. We indicated, or we marked that as one of the hotspots areas for the police to do that during the rest of the election activities. New Highland has the ward recorders and the village record system in place, and well established across the province. For the enrollment, we did not use the ward recorders to do but we tried to, or we could verify against their ward recording book or their data collection information to verify against enrollment or the roll basis that we had to do enrollment with. So that was where we requested to verify only against, because for the commission or for our enrollment activity, we had the Form 11, so in order to be in the role, you have to go through a Form 11. I mean, the Form 11 and then get into the role. Even though we had limited supply of Form 11, like my other colleagues have touched on earlier, said earlier on. So that was the main.
Ms. Baez, who did you give Form 11 to at the ward level to fill? Because the instruction was for the ward members to take charge.
Okay, we gave it, the eligibles were the ones that assisted us in appointing key people in their wards whom they know with respect to do awareness and all this. So they know the people within the ward area. So we gave the honors to the LLG managers to appoint the two aides per ward to assist us. And with the help of the ward recorder, and we assume they were equipped with the village record data, they can verify and assist us to do enrollment throughout. Some of my recommendations for the role update, we would suggest, or we would want more time to do a proper role, not to be 100% exactly, but at least we have more time, and we want to verify against the village record book. Full funding, and the funding to be given straight to the provinces all at once in one time, rather than activity by activity, and then the supply of the full requested Form 11s, the enrollment forms. We want the full supply so we could have the opportunity to enroll almost everyone in the verified against the village record book. And also the police to be part of the enrollment team or the enrollment exercise update. For enrollment, we only have elections 5 years or every 5 years, while the remaining years, we suggest the funding can be given so we can do ongoing updates, maybe every 6 months, and then come towards election, we can already know how much work we need to do for updating purposes, and then we don't have to, so it goes back to time and funding.
This election, you reporting that you had 3.5 months
Yes.
to update the common role throughout the province.
Yes.
For New Allan, how many months you want to double that amount for 6 months, 3 months, or 6 months? How much time would be sufficient? You say 3.5 months is not enough.
No. With the enrollment phase or the process, then I gather 1 year should be okay, because we will have field work and then we have to send out, and we'll have the role display again. So all in all, 1 year will be okay. Also bearing in mind the geographical locations of wards and logistics arrangements as well.
So in reality, what I'm trying to perceive is, you are also recommending, other provinces have also recommended that the ward recorder and the ward record book must be firmly institutionalized, that's the way to go in the country. So there should be, as the acting PA from East New Britain was saying, they've already got structures to go and update on a frequent basis the ward record book and the work of the ward recorder. Then when it comes to the election, what your recommendation is that for those 18 plus above and for those who have died and come and go, That process must be at least 12 months before.
That should be
In
sufficient.
the so-called update of the common roll. And so we used our word recorder as the basis, but then your data has to come from your process at least 12 months before, and then you present a updated common roll. But you need all those 5 recommendations, time, funding,
Yes.
etc., etc. Nomination.
Nomination, we had 3 venues for the nominations. The regional seat was received at the provincial headquarters, provincial electoral office office. The caving open seat was received at the provincial headquarters, while the Namatanai was received at the Namatanai district headquarters. We had 46 candidates with 7, out of 46, we had 7 female candidates. There was only 1 that contested for the regional seat. Nomination went well without any major disruptions for New Ireland. With polling, we had 95 teams, 45 teams in caving and 54 in Namatanai. Polling, we had a 1-day polling for caving urban, and the other LLGs, we had 5 to 7 days polling across. One of the major issues that we also faced was the missing names in the roll, and that is alluded by all my colleagues. The reaction from the scrutineers and the candidates, voters during polling, we advised them generally, your name is not on the roll, you don't get to vote. So yes, they were quite upset, but
Can I intervene there? Obviously, they would be upset. During that time, I recall I'm not sure if it was the governor then, or was it the provincial government that made a request to use the ward record books to allow, the village record books to allow their people to vote. You recall that? There was a call made. And I think the electoral commissioner said, refused to entertain that. What's your opinion on that? You've mentioned to some extent the use of the village record book in your report to us, and obviously there's nobody from the provincial administration here that we could speak to. So I want to ask your opinion on that.
okay, thank you, Chair. With regards to the village record book, for enrollment purpose, would be a better tool for us to verify with. But for polling, I believe I am guided by law to use the electoral roll
Fair
and
enough.
no other tool.
I understand that. My question was, given that they felt they had a more accurate record of the people in their province, they made that call. Obviously, the law is very clear. If you're not registered on the roll, you cannot vote. That we all understand. Going forward, to fix future issues with the missing people on the electoral roll, obviously, looking at your suggestions here, there are some good suggestions, and from the other provinces as well, the teams that we've listened to, including the 2 that were just here earlier on, they want to move towards this, the provincial governments taking over the update of the roll, all right? Which means that this particular document we're talking about, which is the electoral roll, we've got to find a better way of updating it. You've said yourself that many of the voters refused to register, and then when it came time for voting, they couldn't vote because their names, so they were turned away. That was one of the reasons you gave earlier on in your testimony. However, The argument by the provincial government is that the village record book is still a much more accurate record. Do you agree with that? Is it a much more accurate record of the people that live in those areas?
I would say yes.
You would.
Yes.
So if we were to recommend, for instance, that we find some way of making sure that the electoral roll matches the village record book to a large extent. Obviously, we're not going to get 100%, but let's just say it's better than now. And if people turned up to vote and their names were on the roll, then the situation that you are just describing to us now, that would not occur, right? If people were on the roll and they could vote, then you would not have too many disruptions during the polling or disagreements. Talk you talk emosem. Oli kam na ol pani molsem nemblol no stop lo electoral roll. So some disagreement may come up for obvious reasons. They were upset. If we were to find a way to make sure that there's la olgara line is stop lo electoral roll, do you think that in future, in the next election, for example, there's la kind of arguments were come up lo last election, lo ol man we nemblol no stop lo electoral roll? Do you think that would reduce the arguments and make the elections better?
Yes. Through the activity of enrollment, we can use the village record book to verify, and in that way, we can enroll most of our voters to be on the roll, electoral roll. So we can use the village record book as our tool for verification with the road recorders on ground.
Fair enough. Continue.
Yes. So polling, that was one of the major issues that we faced, but with the good behavior of our New Island citizens, they did not cause any major disruptions during polling. Our logistics was managed well. We made sure all polling teams had to return back on time as per our election polling schedule time. And one of my other concern would be the weather. During the time of elections, we have rain season and strong winds, especially for our island LLGs and island wards. So it would go back to my recommendations for full funding to be given, so that we can be on standby for additional fuel or additional boats, and also to communicate with the island LLGs during polling, especially because the weather during the polling time is quite rough at the seas. So my recommendation would be timely funding and the review of the current DPM rates, allowances rates.
Ms. Baez, on the weather,
Yeah.
we have the same problems in the southern region because the southeasterly winds, they begin in May right through to June. Very bad, and I myself capsized twice in the sea because of bad weather. Why aren't you recommending, while you mentioned it, why aren't you recommending the change of months of the national elections so that we do hold an election in a better weathered month rather than during this very rough period? You wouldn't be gaining enough to recommend to the committee a change of the timing of the national elections, weather-related, climate, weather-related change.
If that can be done, then I would also agree with the committee on that. On the other hand, if we can equip our emergency and disaster in each provinces to be on standby and be part of the elections, and they have to be more equipped.
That will bring more expenses. I would
Well,
support a change in timing for the national elections. We don't have money. You are complaining about money all the time. Now you are asking for more money for emergency situations. Just recommend to change the month to a good weather month in the country so you don't have to worry about emergency responses. You've got a committee member that is strongly supporting the change of time for the national election, so make a recommendation and I'll push it in Parliament.
You may continue. That was meant to be a light moment.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. Our counting, we had 2 counting venues for all the 3 seats. The provincial seat and the Kewing open seat. We were fortunate to be given the National Fisheries College in Kewing, which greatly assisted us in lending us the venue for free, following good relationship with our stakeholders within the province. And they hosted the provincial seat as well as the Kewing open seat. But we had to build a temporary venue shelter for the Kewing separately from the provincial seat. For Namatanai, they had it at the Catholic Mission Hall, so that was okay. Why we had to, we decided to have the counting at the National Fisheries College. One of our main reasons was the limited manpower of security, and because Fisheries College was more in a secluded area with fully fenced. So.
Ms. Bice, I think that's a given. The key concern for us would be, was there any disagreements from the candidates and scrutineers about your location or your choice of location for counting?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Then you can skip that and continue. Perhaps, since you've given us a comprehensive report, could you, aside from the challenges you've already noted, are there any other significant challenges that you would have recommendations for the committee in terms of major issues encountered in New Ireland, apart from weather and that, and the electoral roll?
One recommendation that I would really stress on like my other colleagues, I think it's funding and time. We're given the full funding. I'm sure all the experience that we have through the elections that we've done, we will deliver on time and manage what we have, and then have a report and audit back to our responsible organizations. And to whoever partner that assists us in funding or what, we can always report back to them with how we spend the money. On that note, full treasury expense report has been already given, along with the rates, same time to my provincial headquarters already, which copy can be made available through my headquarters.
How much outstanding do you?
We have around 1 million outstanding. 1 million? Yes.
For what?
The counting process that we did, of course, for this election required a lot of counting officials, and to cater for them and the logistics to count within the time frame and return is costly. Also with the distance of the province, it's really like logistically, it's quite expensive for a province which is far from many suppliers, many major suppliers that are in most other provinces inland. So counting expenses, all allowance has been paid for. Those that have queries with their accounts have been paid for already, sorted out and paid for. We only have the expenses for counting, because we had to recruit a lot of people to complete the counting on time.
Why did Namatanai take twice the length to count compared to KVN and regional seat? on your report?
Um,
What happened in Namatanai and you went for another 5 days extra?
they had scrutiny disruptions. So
What were the key issues by the scrutineers raised?
they wanted to know the counting process was one, and they come with sorts of issues where maybe to disrupt counting or delay counting.
Could you describe those? So you say they were deliberately disrupting counting?
One of the main disruptions was to I mentioned that the counting process, it was slightly more detailed than the previous counting strategies which we took, which was what they wanted to know, like what step next, and until we get to the
And therefore they disrupted the counting?
yeah.
You did not experience that in the other two counts?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
We did have scrutiny training and awareness, 1 day each in both districts, 1 day in Kevin and 1 day but we didn't have more time to explain to them the counting process. So they have a fair idea of the counting process. But with the roles and responsibilities, yes.
Okay.
Was the disruption more related with specific candidates or general scrutineers? General.
Yeah.
Sir, can I move on? Okay, thank you, Ms. Bice, for a very comprehensive report. We now move to some of our participants from East New Britain. Mayor Chengol Manawai, would you like to present a report to the committee and in terms of your own experiences of 2022 in the elections? Sir, you have the floor.
Sorry, report.
Well, you
Oh.
talk below you.
All right, okay. Thank you, Team below you, Honorable Allan Bird. Firstly, me like commending Marape Rosa government to come up with this committee because our elections every 5 years and the national election, and I think the LG election too, we have a lot of issues and problems. So me like thank him, Honorable Prime Minister, for come up with this committee where you are chairing today and around the country. Thank you. All right. Election, all get the 5 years in Misagar election. Problems is a stop. Funding is one of the factor. Common role is one of the factor. What we can look now long Album Yubla committee is this common role. You must decentralize in Kamno province and make it a provincial government business. Because when it's here at the province, staff, all man were, all staff, and I'm only in a style of common role. 2022, even got problem on all wards because time only give him awareness na updating common role. Just like Form 11, only no give me enough forms. They kept it here at the headquarters here. Only talk, supposed to be like planning form, no good to inflate him common role. Now, there's a lot of people all councillors award. We don't know because me want the councillor to time people councillor award you find it really hard. Why is that? Because some are picking anyway only start by the time he come 22 and only 18 years old and over. So the time long 17 he come. No 22. And more picking on people finish. So me play go attempt pretty more than I'm only go. But when he reached the chorus here, they go, you go almost become back, the name was not there. But the forms were signed and we bring him become, you know, at the end of the day, time coming on Lakamat, the name's not there. They were 10 away.
Mila asking you this la question. Online long, you talk some online lo electoral commission only suspect some yubla by yubla ward members by inflating electoral roll. Lo experience blow you. One something true by giving online lo electoral commission this ting ting also. Yubla ward members cannot be trusted na yubla like inflating electoral roll.
No, me no understand too because the people at the ward recorder, they big time we work in this update, even got two man. One the ward recorder and one blood call him I can't remember the other name for it. But he got two places come now only walk one time. So they double check each other. So Balista come in the morning, that's plenty time or some all money walk. So the guy in Sambla, all this lifestyle house. Now with you, I've been again, some of those times where they only come back on Nogat, I don't know. But Tamu starting formula like that. Also go people got plenty, you know, me plan and rolling me down. In that back form back I'm none. Only talk Nogat. Whatever forms people and you plan. So planning or I'm working on list as well. For the sake of like all money come now talking people like, hey me 10, 18 long, 22 year, February 22 or kind of example. So, but came this go on top, but I'm really got talking. No, I'm not going to by inflating common roll. So, the ward recorder.
So, me like asking you another question. Can you stop ward member how many years now?
We come in 1995, time organically.
So, you stop this work long blood time?
Long blood time.
All right. Na law experience below you 1995 we come now. You been looking also. You stop long Rabaul Eben LLG.
Yeah. Yes.
You been looking some line ni tram long inflating roll long Rabaul Eben LLG or not?
No.
Na yet only still suspect also you blow by inflating.
Yeah. And one time we talk in me so long Rabaul Eben. More at the word long year long.
No, me understand, but me ask him lo area below you because you want stop lawyer. So some law not play LLG to stop lawyer. I think same question don't ask him. So you got big level of suspicion. Namel long online long electoral office na yubla. All ward members online block collecting data.
Well, why we to all cements all ward recorders there? There's a lot of time on the saxing pay. Now, all water recorder, only come inside, time council I win, council I have a maximum water recorder long I mean. So he got some kind of last too. And by stuff because I put him all land long and by voting him. See, we have make a recommendation behind. So, all this liar, it could be why or not, but talk to all the other meeting, I mean, not true. Because the ward Brahmin, you got 600 people there. Now, suppose additionally come, I miss away, so that's why we talk, not over 18 by going to come in. Why by me inflating again? So, that's why I've been up last year. Planning of the board, only have been votes. Like, I had 500 people in the votes, and only 161 voted.
You 500 in Rabal Eben.
Yeah.
You said
Yes.
you had 500 eligible voters.
Yeah.
And how many enrolled?
There were 600 enrolled. Eligible voters were about 5 because you got some
Around
like been
there.
died, some like been died.
And then how many came and voted?
161.
Oh, that's a small number. Small. Why? Why only out of 600, only 100 came and voted?
Sambla only been stopped for time to vote. Like they have they're working outside. Now only go out.
Was it
or
a
only
one
work
day,
with ship.
one day voting?
One day voting.
So because of one day, if there were 2 days, they would come and vote?
I would recommend that you must get table day of vote because Pani Bulong only walk. Now, some of them, it's a company in a bloody mall, you can vote. Or it's a finish 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Time when I come along here, long voting, election closed. So Pani Bulong in a vote. Even they turn up with cross now, like, okay, now Mr. must vote. Oh, no, time finished because it's time. So one day, you know, now, at least 2 days, 3 days, so people you must cast in vote because they want to choose their leader, or you must come down and cast in vote.
Yeah, right, continue, sir.
Me concur with them, say Puka Temu long, or Mary long, while long Parliament. Long we long LLG and Parliamentary and winning election. Me lo vote long LLG me, Mr. Gatubla, one place I come up long, or the election. The Yumilo province, I think in 2017, one the Mary been the original seat and become number 7. And that's very good record for one to come out of the Olga made and become 7, which is good. But meeting of them, all Mary only just too honest, only no got resources. They go out to campaign and they want to become MP, but you know got the resources. Also, I think you blow party line 2 years. It was a German little 2 years. You play like between mine is all go along all man that's all. Now all Mary no got because you play talk. All Mary line will blow here. I think that's why you must send him focus. We must send him again. We need more women in Parliament. Me too. Me and master. Me like him very much. Because now I was made son of this about Kokopo. For me, I think me no sabi het. For me no het. Na by kat 27. Na long original seats. He got 1, 2 sa come up long all kata election. But I think government should seriously look at it. If we want that you talk there's a popular space where you talk, I think you must look in some way forward long.
Mayor Manoa, you raised your voice when you talked about party. You play party, yeah, you talk also.
Yes.
Me harim this planet clear all geta. Me believe also lo country blow me to play. Party as a political institution important. So in the discussion of women, would you suggest that by law, party must candidate, party time only support him candidate, 50% must marry, 50% must man, law, you may work in law. Tintin blow also man.
Me one Beltro, me one Belstrat.
Come with me to the floor of Parliament and we make the change. Because party is important. Institutions of state, in my personal view, are very important. And party, this party too much. So we can focus on party regulation, etc. We have too many parties. And so maybe in this argument, someone is listening, we really need to look at how parties can promote women participation in the candidacy level. How they go and campaign, them passing the stuff, but maybe that is one area during this discussion we could look at, that the parties must seriously look at having whatever percentage, I said 50, but maybe a nominated percentage by law. I have my own party called Our Development Party. And so if I nominate 20, the law must say 10 must be women, 10 must be men. Maybe that could be one answer amongst many answers.
Lito tolo party, me too, me looking myself. Today, plan the party to my Sambla party, one blaman, that's all, or two blaman. And they don't even get, they win one seat in the parliament. Or shall lose now, Wabla Sol by Gona, and that's all. For the last. All the little party, time no Rausimol. Tamul Tubula or Pabla, go send him Lona dog. Only more of 15 party, no got Rausim. Because every will create more is like I know. You will go now, you will have the Anantable send him lawyer. You got party where you in Nambly, you got one party in a Tubulamandasola, Wamblasola. You will have Tambolo, you will look in a street.
May I make a law when a party brings less than 3 members of parliament, that party is automatically deregistered. That type of thinking, that type of thinking. So in that way, in 20 years' time, we only have 3 or 4 major parties in this country, because too many parties is one of the problems in our country. And so the discussion on these interviews has to be party. Party must come in the equation.
All right. Chairman, water kodaya, salabukia, gaman creative long, or word long, creative name long mania. All right, me like, give me one blah, look seven, me go to you blast him. The water coda, you must put him all as a public servant. So they stay there, and all by staff. Apply long and stop on this land. Now you got man we got this land sold by staff. Plan your water coda, no got through ya. But employ from council and I put it. So put him, he go position, because now long people are listening pretend. There's a WDC, maybe like a 9 SRA established WDC. Now time you put him more than come on the word. Now by function time, you know what look at him all woman. So word recorder, he must establish fortnight or establish moon, but at least only maximum legally once a week, because time you pay him, it does a good work. But it was, like, me can talk you by experience. What recorder when I'm moving, like Karingam, you buy recorder, me Karingam. Because what recorder is by you know, see book, you by me yet. So try to make out me all the time looks in book. But head office like him, so I have to bring it back. These are things that some of the time by you during more like delays, comment in the street, because they just do things because it was only staff long payroll and all workman long man, and they don't do the job, we kick their mom.
All right, sir. I think your point is taken. You got some more recommendations, suppose no got me like movie go long. Probably upside now.
From the recommendation long funding ya, me like him by funding long election, he must come straight long province. That was, you know, now when me like an album. Why me talk also? Because time election is come up, also asking me like DDA board long album past them. The time money la come no electoral commission by come down, is a come on the eve of the nomination or time all campaign money by put down. You know, because people are saying that time more time or boss from the province is putting money. People putting because I'm like the member, I'm like the money must go now.
Okay, that's a fair enough recommendation. I think I'm plenty of province totally working one kind of recommendation. So I'm something where you Eddie Mantap now, we'll take that on board. So
okay, last long you must talk long national election. We know what local level government election because it can some issue too, but also me throw with the
No, let me put it this way. Time me play straight in process belong national election and by deal one time local level government election one time. So it's not, we are not going to use 2 different systems and by same system law deal one time. But at the moment, because you think me play come inside not a solo parliament, I think this is the first committee that is working very hard to try to, because we recognize the importance of democratically sanctioned elections. So me play like fix him hurry up. So that's why we are moving a little bit quickly on this one. with the support of the Prime Minister. So one recommendation people are making by affecting local level government too, because it's elections in general and they're all conducted by the Electoral Commission. Am I right?
Thank you, Allan. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Me kisim last participant Blomipla, Mr. Emmanuel Melchior, Current Services. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Firstly, on behalf of the people with disabilities in the province, thank you for this opportunity given at least to present a brief on the PWDs, especially with election in the province, the 2022 general election. I will just give a brief on what I've seen and what I've heard, especially with the organization. Current Services is an organization that looks after people with disabilities and also for children with disabilities, promoting inclusive education. Just a few comparison to 2012. Well, this is my 15th year with the organization, 3 years as the program coordinator for the province. In 2012, we were involved in the election, and we were used as a driving force behind for people with disabilities, especially in awareness, data collection, assisting with transporting people from the homes to polling booth, and also assisting them in the polling areas. That was in 2012. Comparing the 2012 with 2017, I mean the 2022, there was nothing like what I've mentioned took place. Our involvement as a service provider to the people with disabilities, one, we were not involved in the awareness. If there was awareness taking place, maybe our recommendation would be the province be involving our staff, representative from the organization, especially NGOs, dealing with disabilities, to be part of the team conducting awareness. Because in the communities there are deaf people with disabilities just cannot hear, and we are the only organization that deals with sign language. And for some of them who have been through our programs with sign language, we can sign the awareness to them rather than just talking plainly. Most people with especially hearing problem would not understand the message of this. So we would be happy if we will be included in our awareness team. So for this 2020-22, we have not been included in any of the awareness in the province. Also, on that note, the polling booth, as hearing from officers and other stakeholders, polling booth can be accessible, especially when there is a blind person going into the polling booth and somebody is there to assist. And if whatever choice he or she wants, and then, he cannot see the person writing down. So maybe the polling, that's one of a recommendation. Maybe the brailles the documents that can be used can be brailled. Also, in polling places, in polling teams, maybe people who have the skill of dealing with people with disabilities can be included in polling teams to at least assist in those to cast their votes. I would also of one of the NGOs that we have. We have the Kalan services in the province. We have the OPD, the Organizations for Persons with Disabilities, be represented maybe in the provincial election steering committee, a rep to be there. At least for decision-wise, this group of people also have a voice in the committee. Also that we have people with wheelchair users, and is the polling booth accessible to wheelchair users to cast their votes. Also, we don't currently, as speaking, I don't have a data to know how many people with disability have voted this election, because the vote recorders, we are not partnering with vote recorders, and that is one of the major problems that we have. Having a data in place we have our own data, but it's mainly children with disabilities. But for people with disabilities, that is the main area which maybe the provincial government can work closer with us and engage us in some of the activities, so we have also data in place. And when election comes, we know how many people from this ward have this number of people with disabilities, so assistance can be provided. So, yeah, that's currently some of the issues that we have, especially with people with disabilities in the province. So, it's mainly our data and the accessibility. And like in 2012, one of the NGOs assisted us in providing a vehicle, which we have to run around and pick the people up with disabilities to the polling booth. But compared to 2022, there's nothing we had. I think that's briefly what I can report on for people with disabilities in the province.
Inclusive population to participate in voting, the gender equity and social inclusion for everybody. But it's important to know how many of our population are actually who do have a disability in our respective wards. So a couple of points to make him today. The ward development committees, you must work one time all. The plus have mas community employee or the disabled population communities. So I think generally the chairman, I'd like to say that the recommendations made by Emmanuel is very important. When you take that on board and include some of those very important recommendations, next, report Loyemi. So we have an inclusive population that's also included as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel, and we also commend the work that Allan Services is doing. Highly commendable, particularly with our people living with disabilities. And thank you for coming to represent the people. I was just going to ask one or two questions. At the East New Britain Provincial Assembly, have you got a representative or nominated person at the Provincial Assembly?
I think to have it in the Provincial Assembly, I think it's represented through the Community Development Division. But currently, just recently, a desk has been created in the Community Development.
I'm asking the Provincial Assembly.
Nobody
has been nominated to be a member of the Provincial Assembly.
No, and that would be a recommendation too.
I would suggest that we look at us pushing for governors to recommend and nominating persons living with disabilities as Provincial Assembly members too. Mr. Emmanuel, are you aware that the Constitution provides for nominated persons to be on the floor of the National Parliament?
Yes,
You are aware of it?
yes.
Your views on how long are you going to wait for our government to invoke that provision? When are we going to allow a disabled person to be a member of the National Parliament through that constitutional provision, so we have a voice on the National Parliament?
Yeah, I think.
Should we recommend? Do
Yes.
you recommend to the committee that this Parliament or next Parliament, we must have a nominated person with disabilities on the floor of Parliament to air the voice of the PWDs in the country?
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I think that would be a recommendation that I would support also for recommending. I mean, I think it's about time we'll have somebody, a person with disability, standing for the rights of all PWDs throughout the country for an election. In the next Parliament.
Put it down as one of your recommendations and submit it.
Thank you.
Well, it has been a productive day, and I don't have any questions. I think I'm pretty happy with the recommendations that we've received today and the contributions from the different groups. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank the East New Britain team and the West New Britain, New Ireland, and our two community participants. Thank you for your contribution to the committee. Tomorrow morning, we will convene at 10 o'clock. We have Manus, Provincial Election Steering Committee, and the Autonomous Region of Bougainville Steering Committee who will be participating tomorrow. And for those of you, that'll be in the morning session. For the afternoon session, we are supposed to have women, church, and youth representatives around East New Britain, or if there are others from within the region who might be in East New Britain for this purpose. You are welcome to turn up, and if you are watching our program live, or if you are in the room and you'll be participating tomorrow, please see the Secretariat so that we can have your proper name and title organized for tomorrow. With that, let me once again thank all the participants and the wonderful people of East New Britain for their hospitality. On behalf of the committee, I now suspend the hearings until tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Thank you all very much.